So as I was saying, first of all, thank you for this opportunity of sharing what we've been doing in Europe around this. Well, of course, I will be sharing one of the many experiences we have here. Myself, I'm a civil engineer. I have a PhD in wave hydrodynamics, and I'm working. I'm one of the managers of a small company who deals with numerical modeling and operational services, data science, that kind of things. So this is why we appeared in these EU-funded projects. So this is the last slide. Sorry. Let me start in the beginning. What I'm going to show is a data platform which we named MARENDATA, which is designed to present the marine renewable industry with resource and impact assessment related information, raw data, and secondary data, and in a format that suits the audience. So this is a summary of what I'm going to present. This is a first impression of this web GIS platform where we have the data. It's focused in Europe. It's focused on test sites, as I'm going to show you a bit later. You see in the bottom of the screen where this comes from. Okay, so it comes from 4 EU-funded projects. So it was first implemented under SOFIA project back in 2010, and the project ended in 2013. And back then it was called SOFIA's Data Management Platform. Now in 2018, we got funds from 2 other projects, WESE and Seawave, which were the ones who christened the platform. And in these projects, this name MARENDATA came about because we thought it needed a name. And then in 2020, we got funds from another project. So the EU was telling the partners of these projects to have the data available over the internet in an easy way for people to find it, to explore it, to use it. Because this need to develop the data platform was in all of the requisites of these funding programs. Okay, so the vision of the vision we wrote in these projects, in these last few projects, the vision we wrote for the platform was that the renewable energy industry requires complex environmental information in order to overcome the challenges of harnessing energy in the sea. I always tell everyone, it's going to the sea to do anything you better be prepared. To be a good idea, you really need to be prepared and to have knowledge to be prepared for that. And to do this should be delivered through an established open platform, aggregating multiple sources of raw and secondary data to ensure access to meaningful information for the user. So we want to provide people with raw data, as raw as possible, and if possible, with some kind of treatment of the data to help people use the data, and eventually not even going to the raw data if they don't want to. So what we established as the mission of the team working on MARENDATA was to establish an adequate IT platform that links with existing and new data repositories. This is written in the mission we have. So we are quite in line with this workshop and what we are trying to do here. Enable access to raw and secondary data, as I already explained. Disseminate data and knowledge previously reviewed by experts. So all partners of these projects are experts in these domains. And so this is, I think, one of the added values of the platform, is that we try to put in the platform data which is reviewed by experts. Another difficult goal, which is to survive individual projects financing constraints. We are a consultancy, we are a company, we live in the market, so we can only maintain this platform, and we are maintaining it at Hidromod, while there are funds for it. It is when there are no projects, no funds, then it's difficult for the platform to survive. We really want to reach a significant audience in the industry. Once again, it's why we are here, to disseminate. To give you an idea of the topics that are covered and the number of data sets that we have in the platform. So this is in this table, you have on the left-hand side a column with the categories of the data. So acoustics, bathymetry, bentos, birds, coastal morphology, currents, fish, hydrography, marine mammals, waves, wind, and then these subcategories. So the total is around a round number of 150 data sets we have in the platform right now, which were uploaded by the partners. Later, if anyone has any question on this, I may give some additional details. So we think it's quite simple to use. You just have to go to the left hand side menu, select a data set, and then on the right hand side, on the lower right hand side, you have a kind of access to the data set. You have the metadata, you have a very short information on the data. You can go to the geographical site, and you can have different things on the data set. If it's a video, in this case I selected a video. If it's a video, then you can click the video and you see the video. Okay. Videos are hosted in YouTube, so it was we could include it here in these frames within the platform to look at the video. But it can be any kind of data. So another example, underwater noise recording at the previous one was at EMAC in Scotland, test site in Scotland. This one is in a test site in the north of Spain at VMAP, underwater noise recording. In the end, you will have access to a WRV file. Here, another data set in a test site in Ireland, where you have wave data. So some of these formats, you can visualize them already in the platform. So this is a data series of most probably, here it is, HM0, so a significant wave height for the period of the measurements. You have some nice storms here, a few of them with significant wave heights above 10 meters, which is quite strong storms. And that's it. I will very briefly see the time. I will very briefly go to the platform live, okay, which is also always a okay. So this is it. Okay, you can sign up, and after signing up and getting your credentials, you can sign in to the platform. And then simply export the data. Okay, so it's loading, and then you can go here and see. So I told you about this test site at TMAC. Let me go there. It has a nice video here. For instance, this one. It's a video. You can just click, see where it is. Okay, it was here, and then you just click the video, and you see the video on YouTube. It loads the video from YouTube. Here you will see a very nice video. Okay, so this is some of the raw data, in fact, that the partners of the project, in this case the Seawave project, gathered. And of course there are other information, not only the videos, but information on the video which you can access. And in this case, for instance, the data is not here, but you can go to the metadata and see who can send you the data. Okay, the data in this case is available on request. We have here the descriptions of the project. So for instance, this WESE project, we have a page about the project, and we have all the deliverables, almost all, some of them are still not uploaded, almost all the deliverables of these projects. Okay. And I will go back to save time to the presentation. And so what are we trying to do now? What we were aiming at, we were working on having all of these 150 sets of data searchable over the PRIMRE. Okay, so in order to enhance the dissemination of this data, so that when you go here, you can be searching over also this data set. So this is our goal right now, and that's it. I'm available for any questions you have or later. Okay. Thank you once again for the invitation.
Jose, that was absolutely wonderful. We do have a couple of questions in the chat, and then I'm going to invite people to, open their microphones if they have others. But first of all, Lisel Garavelli says, can we download the data?
Yes, you should. There are different types of data. You may find 300 megabytes of WFV data, or you may find that it's a video on YouTube, or you may find a CSV file with wave data or with acoustics data, whatever. Okay, you may find PDF files showing a treatment of marine mammal data. So that's it.
But yeah, all the data. Go ahead, Lisa.
No, you replied right after I answered the question, saying that some of them you have to request the data.
Okay.
So that's fine. Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
But yeah, some of them are still. So these are projects that some of them ended just last year. So probably some of them are still being used to write some papers and things like that. So of course we have to respect that time period where people can treat the data themselves before making it available, of course.
But your business model is that all the data that are up there can be downloaded, it's all public, and so on.
Correct.
Yeah, okay, great. Natalie Almondine says, that's a great tool. I did not know it. I just registered on it, a new dimension in marine energy map tools. Thank you. Another question from Youen, Kervella. Really impressive. Is it particularly or only dedicated to offshore renewable energy test centers like EBEC, BMAP, SEMREV, or do you have sites that are not test centers?
We have sites that were test centers to be, and then they never reached the stage of being test centers, for instance. So it's simply what is most important for the partners of the projects. But for instance, we have an ERA 5 reanalysis data for the whole world. So you can access that data, and of course it includes all test centers, but it's a 50-kilometer model, I think. So it's for everywhere. So we are not so much focused on test centers, meaning that we can add other information, We were focused on test centers until now because this is what was the goal of the financing we had through the 4 projects that financed the platform.
Makes sense. Then Dave Mills wants to know, do you follow established European metadata standards? And if so, what standards?
We try to, but whoever generates the metadata are the partners. So we give them guidance and we try to correct something when we feel that it's not as it should be. But we have the Inspire directive. We have a lot of guidances. There are data there from about 12 years ago or more. So, and these things evolve. I don't have a straight answer for you.
That's always the way it is with these systems. So that was really great, Jose. What is the future plans for MARENDATA? What is the support that will continue it forward? Do you have that secured, or do you have an idea of where this might go in future?
Right now, we are being funded by a project that will end in September 2023. So we have a year and a half to
figure it out.
Answer that question.
Okay, fair enough. And this is so often a challenge. That was wonderful. So I'd just like to, does anyone else have questions? And feel free to unmute yourself and ask a question if you like. If you identify yourself, that'd be great.
This is Cesar Castillo. I have a question for Jose. Do you guys do any like tracking of the data that's being used by folks who go and like download it, just to see if there's new ways that the data are being used by other folks who didn't just generate the data?
We do. I don't have that statistic with me right now, but we do know how many data sets were downloaded and that kind of stuff. In 2013, when the first project ended, this general data protection thing wasn't there, and so by then we even shared who accessed the data and things like that, which we shouldn't. But we do keep some statistics on the usage of the platform, and right now we are a bit more cautious in sharing them. That's it.
And another very informative. Thank you, Jose. Any other questions?
Just one last one real quick.
Yeah.
You might have already said this, it was cutting out a little bit for me, but do you also have through the platform, can you access any like reports and other publications that were, generated as part of these projects and these data sets?
Well, we have a very generic, broad view of data sets. Sometimes you may find that the data set is part of a report, for instance, which has some tables, which has things like that. We even have a data set, we even have a test site where they only uploaded documents.
Yeah.
Scientific reports, things like that, and they didn't upload data. But we don't judge the data that each partner wants to upload on a test site. And yes, they may be documents.
No, yeah,
and we try to keep all the links to the projects, so to the EU-funded projects, and to all the deliverables that were produced in the projects. Right now we have 2 of them already in the directly available in the platform, and the other 2 we still refer to the websites of those projects, where you may find the deliverables that were produced, so the documents. Okay.
No, that's great, excellent, because just have the data and also how it was intended to be used. So that's great.
Terrific.
Thank you.
And Marisa says, excellent work. Congratulations. I am impressed. Terrific. Thank you so much, Jose. That was really a wonderful introduction there. Next, we'd like to hear about RESCORE, which is put together by France Énergie Marine in France, and Youen Kervella is going to present, I think. Youen, you or Stevenn?
Yeah, it's me.
Great.
We'll try
Okay.
to share my screen. Yeah, thank
Yeah,
you. Thank you,
terrific.
Andrea.
Thank you so much. Yep, we see it. Looks good.
Perfect, thank you. So I'm Youen Kervella from France Energy Marine, and I'm going to introduce you to the RESCORE platform, which was just launched last February. So we are not at the same level of development as MARENDATA, of course. But thank you for your invitation too. Yeah, just before presenting our platform to you, I will just briefly introduce you to France Energy Marine, which I will call FEM in the following. So FEM is a French National Research Institute fully dedicated to offshore renewable energy. We are also the largest French R&D team dedicated to offshore renewable energies with more than 65 people currently. FEM was created in 2012 as an annual budget of approximately 6 million euros, and has 3 locations in France, in Brest, Marseille, and Nantes. FEM is mainly financed by the French government through investment for the future and by industrial players in the sectors. FEM R&D activity is spread over 4 programs. The first one is site characterization, which deals with the characterization of sea states, wind, and ocean current, hydro-sedimentary processes, and climate change. The second one is system design and monitoring, which deals with structure, mooring, electric cables, hydrodynamical and structural coupling, digital twins, and monitoring, etc. The third one is environmental integration, which deals with the effect of offshore renewable energy on ecosystem components and also socio-ecosystems. And finally, farm optimization, which deals with farm architecture, grid integration, and also operation and maintenance. Okay, so now let's move on to RESCORE. So RESCORE is an online resource center providing access to information useful for the development of the offshore renewable energy sector in France. The basic function of RESCORE is to display metadata about a document, a map, time series, or spatial measurements. More than 150 metadata sheets are already available. It currently focuses on the result of France Energy Marine's R&D project, but it also hosts data from various actors in the field. The respect of international data formatting standards, so ISO and INSPIRE, allows it to be interoperable and open, we hope, to the main French and foreign resource centers. RESCORE is a web portal where data can be searched according to many criteria, such as type of technology involved, the maritime facade concerned, or the type of R&D project, and then can be visualized via an ergonomic mapping tool. RESCORE is dedicated to all the sector stakeholders, developers, operators, and owners of pilot and commercial farms, technology developers, consultancy firms, decision makers at national and regional levels, and also for academic researchers. So Stevenn and I are the 2 permanent members of the RESCORE team. So of course, don't hesitate to contact us directly with any question or suggestions to improve the platform. Currently, Stevenn and I are not full-time on RESCORE, but the ambition is to grow the team quickly and move to a better performing and more widely used platform. We are therefore on the lookout for opportunities to find funding and build new collaborations. So really don't hesitate to contact us. Okay, so now onto the Resource Center live demo. I will just Okay. Okay. So RESCORE comes in the form of a classic website. It was a home page which allows you to access to other page, and also to subscribe to our newsletters, to contact us, etc. Then you have the news page, where you can see in particular the latest data that has been added to the platform. For example, here's a result. You can find a direct link to the project web page and also a link to related metadata. Okay, I will voluntarily skip the data page, on which I will return later in more detail. Here is the how-to page with video tutorials, which are on YouTube, and as well as detailed step-by-step explanation for finding your data. And finally, the About page with a word on the RESCORE R&D project, which gave birth to the RESCORE Resource Center, and also a word on the France Energy Marine Institute. So now back to the data page, which is the heart of RESCORE. This page uses technology developed by the Sextant team at PRIMRE. You access directly to the complete list of metadata sheets present in the catalog. You can sort this list by title, updates, or relevancy, for example. On the left of your screen, you can filter the data. Either by free search, you can type your word, either by a geographical area, or by using keywords that we predefine. For example, the type of document, the maritime facade of France, the type of project, H2020 or FEM, and also the type of technology. For more information on this search tool, you can go to the online help, so on the O2 page. So now let's look at the metadata records. So each card looks the same: a title in blue, a thumbnail relating to the project, the summary of the data, the source of the data, and finally orange buttons giving access to different functionality. Let's now open a card before going back to this button. You now have access to all the metadata. So the summary in gray, the date of publication, the persons in charge of the data, whom you can contact directly, and lots of other information relating to the data, like the lineage or the spatial extent. Okay, let's close this file in order to return to the orange buttons. Depending on the data, as you can see, different buttons are present. These buttons allow you either to, for example, to access remote sites associated with the data. For example, here's the FEM project web page, so you can access. You can also download the data directly if the data is free, or in some case, for example, here for the bibliographic atlas of biofouling, it's not for free, so you can order the data. And you can also, with this orange button, you can also view the data on the RESCORE interactive map. So let's try to visualize the data. So if you click on this view button, here you have two data, so you can add the two layers to the map. so there is a message appear telling you that, that the data have been added to the map. And then you can click on the map tab to view this data. I'll put full screen. Okay, so the two data have been successfully added to the map. You can then move around the map, zoom in, and even query this data. Okay, to add more data to the map, you can also click on the third orange button. You then have access to all data with a WMS stream, so one map service. For those unfamiliar with this technology, we have predefined a number of WMS service URLs. Select one of these services, for example, here's the Chambel service, and you will have access to a lot of data. Let's add, for example, the positions of submarine cables on the map, even the world map of bottom sediments. You can just play with this data. You can return to the first button, and you can just play with this data, for example, to have access to the legend of the map. That's it, core. I will try to go back to my presentation. Yes. Okay. Yes. I would like to end this presentation by telling you about the next versions of RESCORE, which is already in the pipeline. In this future version, two main features will be developed. The first one is the observatories section, the purpose of which is to visualize the results of in-situ measurement in real time. The first two observatories are dedicated to MemoFlow, which is a FEM project on the Mistral test site of Marseille in the Mediterranean, and which measures waves, wind, and weather for the future installation of floating wind farms. And the second one is Zephyrus, which is a floating wind turbine installed off the coast of Norway. And with floater, we are in the process of equipping with inertial sensors to model its different movements. The second functionality that we want to develop quickly is simplified access to the data for people who are not used to using this kind of metadata catalog. The idea is therefore to provide direct access to useful data for future French offshore wind farm, fixed or floating, via an interactive map and a dedicated page for each farm. Okay, so now let's leave room for discussion, but before, let me thank again the PNNL team for allowing us to present RESCORE. So if you have a question or remark.
That was absolutely great, Youen. Lisa, do you want to ask your question live?
Sure. Merci, Youen. I was just asking if, and maybe I missed it, so my bad, but if you had also if you were also going to include modeling data. I know, like, from the Mediterranean Sea, some people I know in IFREMER or IRD are like doing some modeling, like more specific region with high resolution, and this kind of data may be useful. So I was wondering if there will be available also on your platform.
I don't know if I'm still sharing my screen. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. So, for example, for a question, we just include, for example, the last big modeling from the IFREMER team, which is a resource code. So resource code is a wave modeling of Europe, and you have the metadata card, and you have direct access to the remote sites. But you can also directly download the data. I think there is a formulary. Yes. So you have a direct access to modeling data. And yes, this is also modeling from Mars that you mentioned just.
Great, thank you.
That's great. Another question, Youen. How does one add data to your system? What is the steps or the flow of information to add when data are added to your system?
Yeah. At the moment, we really focus on the FEM data, but I think maybe Stevenn, you can answer, but we try to respect Inspire and ISO formatting standards, and we use also for WMS the GeoNetwork software. So it's the easiest way to include data and to have access to our map tool. But Stevenn, I know maybe you have exchange with Jonathan, for example, for the API, but I don't know if you can add a word.
No, I have no answer for the moment, but we are working on it. Yes, I am agree with you. We are focusing on the FEM data for the moment, and we'll see how to add the foreign data.
Great. Well, Youen and Stevenn, that is a wonderful system, and you've grown it up very, very quickly. It's got a lot of capabilities. That's great. Thank you for the
Thank you, and I repeat myself, but we want ready to grow the team, and we are really looking for funding and collaboration. So it's really open. Thank you.
Great. Anyone have other questions for Youen? I think you answered so many of them.
Just a quick one. Yeah, I like your mapping platform and how you can just add, the WMS services to it. Is there a way for you when you put together like a map to just download like a clipped data sets of everything that you have on your map so that you can do it on the desktop application if you want to?
Not as a moment, because a lot of data from FEM project are not free. They are confidential for 5 years, but maybe in some years, it will be easier to share the data. And at the moment, there is no special button to download all the data. Okay. It's data by data. Yeah.
Okay. No, understood.
And Dave Mills, you had a question. Why don't you go ahead and ask that? You want to open your mic?
Sure. Hi, everyone. Nice to be here from the UK. Really interesting presentation so far, and they all relate very closely to, I guess, the work we're doing within our IMARDIS program. And people have mentioned a couple of times the interest in collaboration. Well, we're certainly open for collaboration, and would pick up on those conversations subsequently. But with regard to RESCORE, do you have any criteria for data upload? So, for example, are you driven by user requirements? If so, how do you capture these? Thanks.
Not at the moment. Of course, all the data now focuses on French maritime facade and offshore renewable energy. But we have no other criteria. It's at the moment it's a discussion between the provider and the RESCORE team, and it's more about the free or the cost of the data. So no fixed criteria. Just yeah. Of course, we discuss with the provider, And Stevenn or I built the metadata cart, and so the standard is respected.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Well, Youen and Jose, thank you so much. A great presentation. I think we're going to move on. Up next, Jonathan Whiting of PNNL, part of the PRIMRE team, is going to give you a quick reminder about PRIMRE and then talk about data sharing sort of layers and versions. So John, it's all yours.
Great, thanks. Hi, everyone. For those who don't know me, my name is Jonathan Whiting. I wanted to give a quick background so you know who's talking. I've led the development of Tethys over the last 10 years, and I'm one of the technical kind of database people on the PRIMRE team. I'm going to walk through a couple different levels of data sharing that are possible between databases. The idea is really meant to encourage workshop participants to start making these connections. But first, a quick little introduction to PRIMRE. So PRIMRE is, for those who aren't familiar, just a quick recap. It's basically a grouping of various marine energy databases and knowledge hubs within the US. Not all of them are limited to US scope, but that's kind of the focus. There were a lot of different efforts being funded, and so this was an effort to kind of bring them all under a single umbrella and kind of get comprehensive coverage of various types of information. So be it documents, software, information about projects, data sets, testing guidance, all of those are kind of represented by these various different knowledge hubs. And so we call them knowledge hubs because not all of them are dealing with discrete data, but each one kind of has a unique identity to it. And they're each independent databases or websites, but they're all kind of linked together within this PRIMRE system. We also do some work collecting kind of a consistent breakdown of different technology types. How do we, kind of bring that together? There's some minor differences from one system to the next, but trying to unify it and have a kind of a common terminology built there. And then we have an events calendar where we're tracking, a lot of conferences, workshops, webinars around the world in the marine energy space. And we have a lot of educational resources. So this effort is funded by U.S. Department of Energy, and it involves three of the U.S. Department of Energy national labs, PNNL, Sandia, and NREL. And so with that, next slide, please. There we go, cool. So I just want to walk through a couple of different these different levels of data sharing. The first is linking. Basically, the idea is that you're linking to the homepage of another database. Just here's another resource that's available. Deep linking, drawing a distinction there. This is linking directly to relevant content on another database instead of a homepage. And then metadata federation, which is mapping structured content from multiple databases, allows for smart content, filters, remote searches, and other forms of integration in both directions. We're going to go into name of the cat. We call her Bean. She may be back. So we're going to go into a little bit more depth on each of these and kind of give some examples. Next slide. So with linking, this is pretty straightforward. It's commonplace. We have made this distinction between linking and deep linking. The first level is simply listing the other database as an existing resource. Preferably, you're providing some context as to their topic or geographic scope of the database. The example is this databases page on Tethys, which is in the chat. Haley's going to keep putting those links in the chat. So I encourage you to dig into various sites and examples as we walk through it. The process here is pretty simple. We should honestly all be doing this at a base level, but it's very easy to reciprocate linking back and forth. The main reason to do this is search engine optimization. Google and other search engines, they have algorithms that rate the authority of your website, and links to and from other reputable sites will help that. Authority kind of becomes a baseline for your rankings, and you can further optimize specific pages beyond that. There's a whole lot that you can do there. No one knows exactly what these algorithms are that Google uses, and they frequently change them, but links are generally viewed as one of the most impactful metrics within that. And so good to be getting those additional links. Let's see, one downside to linking is that users often don't know how the databases are connected. Are they just partners? Do they actually share data? Are they focused on marine energy, or are they on broader categories? But with, those challenges can be overcome with a little bit more context. But this is a pretty easy option, low barrier to achieve, and it's certainly better than nothing. So hopefully we can all at least get on board with some of this. Next slide, please. Next up is deep linking. You've likely already done deep linking without calling it this. The premise is that you're linking directly to a relevant subpage on another database. You could think of a Wikipedia page where text links to other relevant entries, but now we're talking about it externally with other sites. The example that I want to give is the PRIMRE glossary, which has links to TEFIS engineering pages within each technology type. It has links to the original source for that image there. Into the resource potential section, and it has links to TEFIS pages for the resource under environmental effects. And so it's an example where you're kind of linking directly to content. In this case, the TEFIS websites provide a lot more, documents and stuff related to those topics. And so that is deep linking, and it provides the previously mentioned search engine optimization that we talked about, but more benefit because you're creating more links. The links tend to feel more natural and lead to better user engagement in general. It allows people to find what they're looking for, even when it isn't on your database. It's a technically simple task. All you're doing is setting up links, but it does require some intentionality to do well. The other challenge is that deep links are more likely to break if a website restructures or changes things around and they haven't set up proper redirects. It happens frequently, so it does require some occasional link checking to ensure that a high percentage of your links are valid, because Google will ding you in your rankings if you have too high a percent of broken links. So that's something to be cautious of. Next slide, please. And now the one that I want to focus on a little bit more is and that we're kind of proposing is metadata federation. It involves sharing content metadata between databases with an API. I'll go through a couple examples of how you might integrate someone else's data into your database next. But the simple example is the PRIMRE search. There is no unique content to PRIMRE, but it's grabbing from all the connected databases. The hurdle is that there's some upfront development required to get connected, and it's not a small lift, but there are significant advantages to this approach. When you're sending content, it shows up in more places and reaches new audiences, which can increase your impact. When you're bringing in content, you can actually fill out gaps in the scope of your own content without doing the work of finding and hosting data sets. Users essentially have fewer clicks before getting to the original content, fewer steps to find that original source. As previously discussed, more links are good for search engine optimization, and this creates a lot of links, so a lot of benefit there. It also coordinates terminology. We kind of saw that within that marine basics page on PRIMRE. Once you bring in a lot of databases, you start talking about, okay, what should we be, how should we be labeling things? And you sync up your terminology pretty quickly. That's usually a natural byproduct of this. So that can help the marine energy space be talking about the same thing. And then once stood up, the approach does require a little maintenance to maintain. I want to quickly show some examples on the PRIMRE approach, showing kind of both sides of this exchange. Go to the next slide, please. So this is kind of highlighting the sending component of this metadata federation. So PRIMRE created a metadata schema that's specific to marine energy. It's based on DCAT international standards for cross-site integration. It specifies things like what fields, formats of those fields, and whether they're required or not. Some taxonomies like content type and technology type are what we call controlled lists. But really the idea here is that we don't want one person calling it a document, the other person calling it literature when you're talking about the same thing, but they're, being categorized differently. So controlling it allows it to, things to sync up a little bit better. But on the right is an example of a JSON API endpoint on Tethys Engineering. This is kind of showing it in Firefox, so it formats it all nicely. If you pull it up in some browsers, it may just look like text, and that's how it is truly formatted. You might be able to get plugins to view it a little bit more cleanly, or Firefox has a nice built-in interface. But what you see here is just one entry of thousands. But you can kind of see which fields are represented here. We do use a modified date parameter so that you can just see those that have been recently added. So you're not loading, 7,000 entries. But the extent of this metadata, but this kind of gives you the idea of the extent of the metadata. It's all very high level. You have things like spatial represented in there. The task for a new database that wanted to connect to the system would be to map their own fields to the fields detailed in this schema. And hopefully it's fairly natural. We try to keep it very high level so that it wouldn't be we don't have that field and you're requiring it, we kind of went for a lowest common denominator approach. So if you just create that API and you expose it publicly, then other connected databases can get your content. If you want to go to the next slide, please. The next example, and this is an optional one, is receiving that metadata. So obviously on PRIMRE, we're trying to pull in all the content, but other databases can also pull. We just have a list of all these APIs that have been set up, and anyone can scan it and grab content from it. So Tethys Engineering has that, and so does PRIMRE, but they've also differed on their approaches. So just to give you an idea of how you could really do this in whatever way works for your website. PRIMRE uses JavaScript and PHP to query entries directly from the API, whereas Tethys Engineering imports metadata directly into its own index on a nightly scheduled cron job, and then displays from there. So different approaches there. PRIMRE displays all the content in one search, and it uses facets to distinguish between the different source databases, versus Tethys Engineering. You can kind of see it up on the top. Along the top, but it has separate tabs for each connected database. So that way, when you do your initial search, you are just looking at Tethys Engineering content. We didn't really want to water down the search within the site itself, but then you can kind of toggle over to see, results from the other databases. So it all comes down to preference, a lot of preference on this side of things, but a lot of different ways you can do it, but just wanted to kind of tease a couple of options. Next slide, please. So we just walked through some specifics, but I want to end by taking a step back and talking about a few high-level concepts, kind of trying to prime you for the workshop or the breakout groups that we're about to go into. We're going to talk about barriers, then value for data sharing, and then a quick plug for data standardization. This slide is from a colleague, is meant for sharing formal data sets rather than the proposed metadata federation, but it highlights the idea that barriers fall into different categories rather than the proposed metadata federation. But it highlights the idea that barriers, my bad. It highlights the idea that barriers do fall into different categories, and that not all of these categories are as visible as the technical challenges that we see up at the top of the iceberg here. Some barriers have solutions. You can, for example, add a moratorium to protect proprietary data until it can be publicly released. Others, like financial, might be harder. If why share data if you barely have enough funding to host your own data, or the view that my data is an asset, which kind of requires a paradigm shift toward a more open access mindset, where data has more value when shared, and you can get more credit when your work is known. We'll discuss these barriers in more depth in the breakout groups, but hopefully this kind of gets you starting on the brainstorming a little bit. Next slide. On a few quick thoughts on why we should share data. Sharing better contributes to the advancement of the marine energy industry globally. We can better see what research has been done and build on past efforts rather than repeating efforts. And more research means more impact, making both the researcher and their organization look more accomplished. The same principles also can apply with proprietary data. We're talking about federating metadata, so you can still show the existence. So with proprietary data, you can still show the existence of your work. You can reap all the same benefits of having that visibility while continuing to keep the actual data secure. And with proprietary data, you're not just improving visibility, but you're actually adding visibility where previously there was none. And you're creating a point of contact for questions and future collaboration. So I want to emphasize that, we like to talk about it for public data, and it makes a lot of sense for public data, but you can even federate metadata with some of the protected stuff as long as it's not sensitive in some way. And there's still value to just showing its existence there. And then next slide. Real quick plug for data standardization. Basically, there's a lot of challenges with raw data sets. It's good to have the raw data sets and access to them, but you often have lower quality. It requires cleaning and transformation before you can really do any analysis. You might have unreliable metadata. And as such, it can be harder to find. So a data pipeline, the idea is that you can standardize the data, you can perform some quality controls, add better interoperability because it's the same format as other data sets, and you can validate the quality of the data and more. So next slide, please. Last slide, I promise. So there are lots of data pipelines within the data science realm, but having something specific to marine energy makes a big difference. A team in PRIMRE has created an open source marine energy data pipeline, as they call it. It draws on 30 years in the wind energy realm, and it works with cloud or local storage. It ties into analysis tools and applies metadata standards. And as far as future development, they're working on algorithms for combining multiple data sets into a higher order data set, and also on developing kind of a data lake concept. I would encourage you to reach out to Chitra. Her contact information is listed there if you're interested in learning more. And there's also a webinar upcoming on June 14th. And I would encourage, there's a link to sign up for that. I would encourage you to attend that if you're interested as well. With that, I will stop talking and open it up for questions and move into that breakout group.